What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. There's a indie game called Christmas Massacre that apparently came out last year on Steam PC and has garnered quite a bit of a following. And I'd never heard of this game before today, but apparently it's coming to console, not consoles, because Nintendo and Xbox say it's too extreme for them to allow it on their platforms. But for some reason, it's okay with Sony. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for my full breakdown of the story. Before this video, let's talk a little bit about Christmas Massacre and this weird dynamic on how it's too extreme for Nintendo and Xbox. Coming to PlayStation platforms November 17th, Christmas Massacre appears to push some boundaries with controversial content. And to me, upon first gaze, I haven't played this game, but it looks like you're a somewhat crazy serial killer dude listening to a Christmas tree telling you to kill everyone in a very violent manner. Not so different than a lot of games that are out these days, so it's a little strange to me that Nintendo and Microsoft are not allowing this kind of game. The game's promotional material suggests a scenario where you assume the role of Santa and you've gone rogue, wielding a flamethrower against characters like children and nuns in a school setting. And I guess that kind of stuff isn't very kosher this day and age. And while some people might look at this and say, yeah, of course they shouldn't allow it because of that kind of stuff, well, Microsoft and Nintendo have allowed games from Puppet Combo, the developer publisher of this game previously, so it stands to reason that they'd allow this one as well. The games that came before it were pretty violent and gory as well. And like I said, this game has garnered quite a bit of a following. I was scrolling through on Twitter looking at all the replies from the fans of this studio, this indie studio that has garnered quite a following over the past 12 months or so. Many were asking about Nintendo Switch ports and Xbox ports, to which Puppet Combo responded saying only PlayStation will allow it, with an apparent ban on Switch and Xbox. The developer Puppet Combo highlighted the game's extreme nature, stating it was too crazy for those other consoles. And it's left a lot of fans and people in the industry puzzled, given that Nintendo and Microsoft have a history of hosting games with mature and violent content. Now, I know this is the whole Grand Theft Auto argument all over again, and people and government officials will use this style game as an excuse to why people have gone crazy and violent in the world we live in today, when that kind of stuff has always been around. Blaming games is such a convenient and easy excuse for what amounts to just crazy people being crazy. The developer Puppet Combo's previous game called Murder House, and it features horror elements and retro PS1 aesthetics just like Christmas Massacre, and notably is available across PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch platforms. So it seems almost like an inconsistent ruling on which games would be allowed on which consoles based off of the way the wind is blowing when the game wants to come out. I would love to know what made this game in particular different, and Christmas Massacre is not. And in a frustrating tone on Twitter, the developer took to say, hey, we tried to get this on Switch. We poured a lot of money to get a Switch port for this game done, and Nintendo is not allowing it. So from that perspective, I am very sympathetic to this developer for doing that kind of work and having Nintendo say no, even after all the money they poured into porting it over to the Switch. But with all that being said, what even is Christmas Massacre? Well, according to the PlayStation Store page, deck the halls with gore and bloodshed. Larry's Christmas tree has been telling him to kill all the people who've been really naughty. But whose side is the tree really on? And can Larry even trust what he's hearing? Christmas Massacre is an 80s-inspired, gore-drenched stealth slasher game with crusty, retro-style, low-poly graphics from horror developer Puppet Combo. Use arcade-style stealth to stalk and murder your prey without being caught, and switch between first and third-person camera modes to change the way you play. You must kill without being seen to complete each level. Can you satisfy your Christmas tree's bloodlust in time before the holidays come to an end? which is a sentence I never could have imagined uttering in my lifetime, putting those words together, but here we are. This game, I'll be honest, looks obviously over the top, gory, and violent, but there's a weird kind of morbid curiosity that goes along with it. Now, researching this game on Steam, like I said, it's already been out for a couple years now. December 17th, 2021 is when this game came out, and it only costs $7.99. So not that bad of a price on Steam. And like I said, it will be coming to Sony PlayStation on November 17th on all PlayStation platforms, PS4 and PS5. They haven't announced a price for it yet, but I'd imagine it would be somewhere between the $8 and $10 mark, most likely. I assumed this was going to be a really crappy shovelware style game with mixed reviews at best, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that no, overall, it's very positive with over 500 reviews stating such, and many of the gamers praised its PS1 era styled gameplay, aesthetics, and 80s retro themed gore, and how it brings it all together in a really fun way. So it remains to be seen if Nintendo or Microsoft will speak up and publicly say why Christmas Massacre is not being allowed on their platforms, even though their previous game was. One has to wonder, with the attention Christmas Massacre is clearly going to be getting because it's not being allowed on Nintendo and Microsoft platforms, it may actually help the publisher. With this attention comes sales, and with sales comes money, and hopefully it works out all in the end for the developer. Because, like I said, the game looks fun, and I'm not a big fan of censorship, especially if it's just video game random violence. It's clearly not replicating humanity. This is PS1 era style, just random hack and slash gameplay. Sure, it's gory. Sure, it's bloody. Sure, it's violent. But at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's not real life, and it's not doing anything in outrageous, compromising positions or doing something that is completely just really frowned upon in society at large. It's really, at the end of the day, just a violent video game that gives the vibe of a retro 80s horror themed game. And that's really where it begins and ends. And the reason why I'm not a big fan of the censorship with this style of game is this is creativity. Some people would look at this as art. This is a form of art, and it's being held back by corporations not allowing it to be seen by the masses. So thankfully, it is available on Steam and shockingly on Sony PlayStation platforms. And we'll see if Nintendo and Microsoft change their mind eventually. And if they don't, I would love to hear the reason as to why this game is not allowed, even though their previous games were. It seems a little bit double standard. And none of this even touches upon the ESRB and the ratings board and what the whole point of that was in the first place. Like, the game is rated M for mature, just like Grand Theft Auto 5 and most Grand Theft Autos that will ever exist moving forward from the top-down ones. This game is clearly a violent, adult-oriented game and should be labeled as such. It's the whole point of the ESRB. That's why it got created in the first place. If we move to a place in society where even some M-rated games can't be out on consoles because, oh, it's too violent for our console, then where do you start drawing the line? And how much power do you start giving to these corporations on deciding what games should be allowed on their platforms and which ones aren't? And I get it. It's their ecosystem, and they want to provide a perspective for society to look at them and say, okay, yeah, that's a brand that I can trust and be associated with. But when you have a whole line of M-rated games and even some adult-only games, then why should this game not be allowed? That's just really strange to me, and I hope it's not a sign of things to come. The slippery slope that begins with this kind of thing, and it just becomes accepted, because then it starts strangling what creativity, what games get made by developers, and what gets put out onto these consoles in the future. And that's something that every gamer should be concerned about. But that's where I'm going to leave this video. Check out the smashjt.com article. I'll link it in the description. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, you stay smashing. Smash